And we're live.
All right, welcome back. So this week we have another great topic. We're talking all about how to prepare your dog for the holidays. It's the holiday season. Whether you'll be going to the party or have people over, is a big time where people are coming and going. So we just want to make sure that your dog's actually prepared and you know what that looks like. If you're going to have guests over for the holidays, are you guys doing anything for the holidays? Having guests over? What do you usually do?
We're traveling. We're not traveling. We're going out to places, and then we're also
Hmm.
having people over at our place in the morning on Christmas, and then we're going to my parents with
Hmm.
Archie, and then people will come over to see him, and
Yep.
well, see us, not just him,
You're right. They're going to see him. They want to see the dog,
pretty much.
Scott. I guarantee you.
And
Yeah.
I will say he's been having a
Mhm.
little bit of trouble in the new place, being alone. So we're probably going to try
Yep.
to take him on our Christmas Eve family get together, going to my wife's cousins because we're probably
Mhm.
quite some time. So we're just seeing him,
Exactly.
and then he'll.
Exactly. Yeah.
So there's a lot of like different scenarios for holiday parties that you run into, and it's like,
Hmm.
how do you
Yep.
make, how do you make it work right?
Exactly. And so I'm going to try to touch base on a few of those scenarios. But the scenario I'm talking about today is people coming over to
Sure,
your home.
sure.
But Scott's absolutely right. Like if your dog has separation anxiety, you don't want to leave him home alone, but that's a whole different topic.
For
But
sure.
just to jump into some of the tips that you can do to kind of help your dog out. So if you're going to have guests over your house, the first thing you want to think about your dog is their manners. How are their manners in general when guests are coming over outside of holiday parties? Are they jumping on guests? Are they barking when the doorbell rings? You want to think of all those things that could possibly trigger the dog or kind of infringe on your guests, and kind of deal with those things now. So when I talk about manners, it's like, if they're jumping on guests, does your dog know sit? Do they know down? Do they know leave it? Those things we can recall your dog away. If they don't know those basic obedience skills, it's never too late to start. I'm not saying your dog will be fully trained by the end of, the next week, but the sooner you start and the better they learn. They learn through repetition. You can just continue that on to the holidays. So if your dog doesn't know sit or down or leave it, you can start teaching them that now. So you can utilize those things when guests are coming into the home, so they're not jumping or infringing and things like that. Um, Also, if that's something that you're like, I don't want to deal with training because it is the holidays and most people are busy doing other things, you want to think about giving your dog a happy spot or a place they can be in when guests are coming over. So, what I'm talking about is if the doorbell rings or if the guests are coming in, do you have a crate maybe you can put your dog in temporarily until the guests come in and settle, or whether that's a room that the dog can go in until the guests come in and settle. Or even if you have some type of gated area in your house that's just specific to the dog, you may want to think about putting your dog in there, kind of like a chill spot until the guests can come in and relax, and then you can have your dog come in and greet. So that's another option as well. Another thing that's going to be really, really, really important, I can't stress this enough, is exercising your dog before people come over. So if you ever heard a tired dog is a good dog, well, it's true. And so you want to think about maybe a half an hour to an hour before people are coming over, take your dog for a nice long walk. If you take them out on trails, you can do that too. But of course, I will give you another tip. So if you're like, you know what, lady, dog trainer lady, I can't take my dog out on the trail because I'm cooking, I have these kids, it's just not
Yeah.
possible. I love teaching my clients the game Find It, where essentially all you're doing is scattering treats around the house or just in a specific room. You just let your dog search for that, and that tires out your dog as well. Because sniffing is very, very exhausting. I always tell dog owners when I go out to their homes, like when I talk about this, if I asked you to sniff 30 times back to back, you would be pretty exhausted. And so that's what searching for treats and sniffing does for your dog. So if you're not able to take them out for a long, long, long walk, you can toss some treats and let them sniff too. That'll suffice. But the more tired they are, the better they're going to be when guests come in and they won't have all that energy to jump or like you just like bother them when they're sitting down and stuff like that. So, have you ever done that with Archie? Like before
Yeah,
guests come over, does it work? Did it work?
it does help. It does help some. Yeah, doing sniff it, find it, and then or like the
Hmm.
pal game, which is another sniffing technique too, right? And
Yep.
just to get him to be, yeah, we find the better, more tired he is, the more relaxed he is. He still
Yep.
might have like an initially a little bit of like energy, like pulse when they come through, but
Mhm.
he calms down a lot quicker. It's kind of
That's
like,
what I was gonna say. Not like before.
no, he relaxes a lot easier. He also wants to like chill too because he's
Mhm.
tired. So yeah,
Yep.
he's like, okay, I saw them. I'm gonna go lay down again. So
Yep, he's like, I'm tired now. Exactly. So you just want to use exercise as a way to tire your dog. And these are just some tips, exercise and use and find it. But if you know for sure that there's something that you do with your dog and you know it tires them out, I want you to do that before guests come over because that'll suffice as well. And moving on to going back to that happy spot. It's more so when you're thinking about a happy spot for your dog, you want to think about a spot where your dog feels comfortable and safe. It is not punishment for your dog to put them in a room, especially if you have a dog that's anxious or fearful and that may not do well with guests. You can go ahead and put them in a separate room. They will thank you for that. They'd rather be there than with guests socializing when they don't feel comfortable. So if you have an anxious or fearful dog, or even a dog that you think may not be good with guests, put them in the crate, put them in the room. Also, make sure you give them something to do. You just don't want to throw them in there. So whether you're giving them a stuffed Kong to work on, whether you're giving them some type of puzzle toy, you want to make sure they're engaged during this time so they're just not in the room just sitting there. And that will help tire them out as too if they're in the room engaging in toys and stuff. And it keeps them not so much focused on the noise and stuff that's going on outside. And they focus on what they're doing right in front of them. And also, you can put on music with the dog. And I talk about classical and reggae music is known to kind of settle a calm and stressed dog. So you can throw in some music or any type of white noise or things like that to drown out all the laughter and the fun that's going on to while your dog's settled
do
in
you
that
have a
happy spot.
go-to like reggae or classical playlist that you use?
Do I have a reggae classical playlist? So what I would tell folks is go to YouTube because if you type in playlist for dogs, you
Yeah.
will notice only classical music comes up or reggae.
Okay.
You won't hear like any type of pop rock really or things like that. It may sound pop rock-ish, but
Okay.
usually you'll find, and they'll say like playlist for stressed dogs, playlist to calm your dogs. You'll notice the playlists they have on YouTube are all lists to kind of calm your dog down. So any type of YouTube playlist is fine.
Okay, cool.
Yep. And so let's talk about your dog being a social butterfly. We talked a little bit more about this again. People, even if you talk to your guests, there's always a few of them that's going to feed your dog some food and stuff like that. But you just want to be mindful of the food you're serving because some food can be toxic to dogs. If you go through, if you're a follower on, if you follow me, you'll see some of the reels that I do and some of the posts that talk about the different foods that are toxic to your dog. So you can always check those out. But just because when your guests are feeding your dog's food, some of them may be okay, some of them may not be okay. So I always tell guests it's always best to give your dog their own platter of food. I'm always a big advocate of that. And what I mean is getting your dog's treats, put them on a platter, maybe even the foods that are good for the dog, putting some of those on. So you can tell your guests instead of giving them food from their plate, hey, this is the dog's food. You can take, if the dog comes up to you, give them, the food from there. And also that's a good time to have your guests indirectly work on training without knowing. I always tell my guests, hey, here's the dog's food. If Francesco or Pal comes up to you, ask him to sit before you give him any treat. And that way you're working on sits or down or whatever you want them to work on. And that you don't tell them the training, you just tell them this is how you feed the dog. And, and that's how you trick your guests, people. No, just kidding. But that's how you get them in on the training. So essentially just make sure you have that food out. Make sure you're watching your dog. They're not jumping on people or kind of muzzling them or sitting about, even if they're not bothering them. I know my dog does that sometimes, just sits and stares. So you just want to make sure your guests are comfortable with your social butterfly dogs as well. And another thing too, last thing, you want to make, I know you probably wouldn't think of this, but make sure your dog is microchipped, not microchipped or tagged at least, just because guests are going to be coming in and out the home. And as much as you watch your dog, if you have a dog that door darts or just maybe slip through out of curiosity of what's outside, you want to make sure that they're able, if someone finds them, that they're able to come back. With that being said, you can always, one thing I have in my home is I do have like a little barrier before the door. So my dogs can't get to the door. Not everyone can do that, but just make sure if you can have some type of barrier, perfect. But if not, just make sure your dog definitely has on their tags that day, and that will be awesome. So those are essentially the tips to get your dog through holidays and holiday meals. So as a reminder, you can start some basic obedience with your dog, or freshen up on that with the guests. Make sure you exercise them ahead of time so that they're nice and tired. Create a happy spot, or if they already have one, make sure you're utilizing that and giving your dog something to do if you do have to put them in that little happy spot. Far as meals, again, making sure that you're putting the platter on the table with the dog's special treats and food, and encouraging the guests to do that. And finally, just making sure that your dog has on their collars and stuff. And, aside from that, they should be all set and ready to go. If you do have new friends or family members coming over, if they don't know you have a dog, make sure you tell them they have a dog, you have a dog, because you don't know if they have allergies, the kids have allergies that they're bringing, if they are bringing kids and things like that. So if you do have new people coming into the fold, make sure you explain that you do have a dog. That's all.
For sure. There's also people that are just like straight up scared about.
Oh, scared. Oh, yeah, yes.
Right. So then at least they can warn you or let you know, and then okay, be a little more mindful and however you can. But they're still coming into a doghouse. So what do you?
Absolutely. All right. Do you have anything to piggyback off of, Scott, for this wonderful conversation?
We love to have you check out our podcast, Spotify, Apple Music, Stitcher, whatever platform you use. Search down for Paws. Loves if you can leave a review. That always helps out the podcast side of things. If you're looking to watch or hear our lives over again, or go back and see if there's any that you missed that you want to get help with, our whole live catalog is on all those podcast platforms. You can listen to them in the car while you're walking your dog, whatever works for you.
While you're holiday shopping.
There you go, right? So brush up on your skills and all that sort of thing.
Exactly.
And of course, check out Pam on all the different socials. And she also now we have for Down for Paws, a subscription-based program on Instagram. So check that out. A lot of great value, a lot more detailed, in-depth value coming from that. So definitely worth, I think it's only like $5 a month or something like that. So
absolutely.
Really easy, but get in on that if you can. And any questions, don't hesitate to reach out here in the comments, or directly to Pam through any of those social channels. So Pam, anything else to wrap up before we go?
No, other than that, we'll see you next week. And enjoy your weekend and happy holidays.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.